In just over 200 years, a scattered group of colonies evolved into a force that shaped the very structure of the modern world. The United States didn't just rise, it ascended, with every decade adding a new layer of ambition, power, and control. It wasn't luck, it wasn't magic. It was methodical, strategic, ruthless. But it all began with a gamble. Imagine this: 13 small colonies, isolated, under-resourced, standing against the greatest empire the world had ever seen, Britain. It was 1776, and the Declaration of Independence wasn't just a list of complaints, it was a dare, challenge to history. No one expected them to survive, yet somehow they did. The Revolutionary War was more than a battle for freedom. It was a statement that the rules could be rewritten. With guerrilla tactics, alliances with enemies of the crown like France, the sheer will to break free, these colonies carved out a fragile existence. But independence was just the beginning. What came next was far more dangerous: building a nation from scratch. The early republics stumbled. Political division, economic instability, and constant external threats tested the newborn country. Yet within this chaos, a hunger grew. A desire not just to exist, but to expand. The United States began pushing westward, consuming land at a relentless pace. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled its size overnight. And as settlers moved further, so did conflict. With Native American tribes, with Mexico, even within its own borders. But expansion wasn't just about land. It was about the idea that this nation was meant to stretch from sea to shining sea. That belief became a kind of religion, manifest destiny. Cities sprang up. Railroads sliced through wilderness. The telegraph shrank distances, and cotton fueled by slave labor turned the South into an economic engine. But this progress came at a price, and soon the contradictions could no longer be contained. In 1861, the United States turned on itself. The Civil War was indeed just about North versus South. It was about two different visions of America, one rooted in tradition and slavery, the other in industry and freedom. The war was brutal. Families torn apart, cities reduced to rubble. Over 600,000 dead. But when it ended in 1865, something strange happened. The United States didn't weaken, it hardened, it forged in blood and steel. The post-war years were explosive. Industrialization swept through the nation like wildfire. Factories roared. Skyscrapers climbed. Immigrants poured in by the millions, chasing the American dream. Titans like Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Vanderbilt didn't just build businesses, they built empires within an empire. America was no longer a quiet agrarian society. It was a machine, loud, efficient, and unstoppable. By the early 20th century, the United States was flexing its muscles overseas. In 1898, it took on Spain and emerged with control over Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. It began building a navy that could project power across oceans. The Panama Canal carved through jungle and disease, connected its military and trade might from one coast to the other. The U.S. was no longer just a continental force. It was beginning to think globally, and came the Great War. At first, America watched from a distance as Europe tore itself apart. But neutrality didn't last. By 1917, the U.S. entered World War I, bringing fresh troops, massive resources, and a sense of purpose. When the war ended, America was respected, feared, and wealthier than ever. But something held it back from full global dominance: hesitation. After the war, it retreated inward. Isolationism took hold. The Roaring Twenties gave way to the crushing depression of the 1930s. People questioned whether the American system was truly sustainable. And then, the world caught fire again. World War II was different, bigger, deadlier. The stakes weren't just land or power, they were survival. Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan were rewriting the global order. And once again, the United States tried to stay out, until it couldn't. Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941. A date that shocked the American people and woke a sleeping giant. From that moment, everything changed. Factories converted overnight into war production hubs. Women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers. Rationing became a way of life. And the country, once divided by region and class, united with a singular goal: total victory. But America didn't just participate in the war, it powered it. It became the arsenal of democracy, supplying the Allies with weapons, food, and technology. It led invasions across Europe and the Pacific. And in August 1945, it did something no other nation had done before. It dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending the war and beginning a new era of fear and awe. When the smoke cleared, Europe lay in ruins. Japan was defeated. The Soviet Union was powerful, but battered. The United States stood alone, untouched by the destruction that devastated the rest of the world. It had the strongest economy, the most advanced military, and for a brief moment, absolute global influence. But peace was an illusion. Cold War wasn't fought on battlefields. It was fought in shadows, in proxy wars, in diplomatic halls, and in the minds of billions. The United States and the Soviet Union entered a silent, dangerous dance. Each feared the other. Each built nuclear arsenals capable of ending civilization. The Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world within minutes of annihilation. Vietnam tested America's resolve. This wasn't just a military struggle. It was ideological. Capitalism versus communism. Freedom versus control. West versus East. The United States built alliances, poured money into foreign economies, and used soft power. Hollywood. Blue jeans, rock music, Coca-Cola to seduce the world. And slowly, over decades, it worked. The Soviet system began to crack. The Berlin Wall fell. The Iron Curtain lifted. And in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed under its own weight.
Suddenly, the world had only one superpower. For the first time in modern history, one nation held global dominance across every domain: military, economic, cultural, technological.
It was the end of history, some said. Democracy had won. The American century had begun. But history doesn't end. It evolves. The 1990s brought new opportunities and new risks. The internet exploded, changing how humans communicated, learned, and thought. American tech companies rose from obscurity to global empires. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, their influence extended far beyond commerce. They shaped minds, they gathered data, they built a new kind of empire, digital, invisible, and immensely powerful. Then came 9/11s. A bright September morning turned into a national nightmare. The attacks on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon shook America to its core. For the first time in generations, Americans felt vulnerable, and the response was swift. The War on Terror began. Troops were deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. Trillions of dollars were spent. Thousands of lives lost. The world watched as the U.S. flexed its unmatched power, but not without consequence. Alliances strained. Trust eroded. Questions arose. Was this the cost of leadership? At the same time, rivals were growing in the shadows. China, once considered a sleeping giant, was awakening fast. Its economy surged, its military modernized. Its global reach extended through trade, technology, and diplomacy. While America fought wars in the Middle East, China built roads, ports, and influence. And yet, through all this, the United States remained dominant. Not because of brute force alone, but because of adaptability. Reinvention. It was never just about bombs and dollars. It was about perception, the belief both at home and abroad that America had a special role in the world. It's a destiny. But today, that belief is being tested. It's a rise of populism, deep political polarization, racial injustice, economic inequality, a fractured media landscape, cyber warfare, climate change, a pandemic that shook institutions. Yet, the challenges are different now. Harder to see, harder to fight. So what happens next? Does the US remain the world's leader? Or is it slowly giving way to a multipolar world, where influence is divided and power is negotiated, not commanded? Will the next superpower be a country or a corporation, a coalition, an algorithm? The truth is, no empire lasts forever. But few have lasted like this, with such complexity, contradiction, and resilience. The story of the United States is far from over. It's a story still being written, in classrooms, in boardrooms, in battlefields, in ballot boxes. What made the US a superpower wasn't just war or wealth, was its unmatched ability to adapt, to recover, and to imagine something greater. And while the world watches, Skeptically, nervously, hopefully, America stands at another crossroads. Will it rise again, stronger than ever? Or is the era of the lone superpower coming to an end? Time, as always, will decide. But one thing is certain: the world is still watching.